Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's special edition with the amazing Zoe Davenport on Beyond the Ordinary Show. And this is going to be a really fun conversation. And I'm curious as to where it's going to go, because with Zoe, there's a lot of flow, and it adjusts to the audience and to who's listening to the replay, to the energetics that's really surrounding and amplifying what's coming through. And it's the way that Zoe navigates. And again, I've known her for years, and we've been friends for deep friends for that time. And it's incredible what gets received in this space, and again, what gets amplified. So today we're talking from the consciousness of 3D density into 5D crystalline potential. And Zoe's going to take us deep into that conversation, and we'll also open up to Q&A. So again, if you want to ask your private questions, most of y'all know what to do, but in case you don't, just raise your hand on the chat box, which should be at the bottom of your screen, or you can type your question into, or not in the chat box, raise your hand in the bottom bar, or type your question into the chat box, and we'll try to get through some great Q&A today as well. But Zoe, welcome to the show. It's wonderful to have you here again.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Such a pleasure, and always such a gift to be here with you and your amazing community.
Yeah, I didn't go into your bio because I want you to explain how it is that you work with clients directly. I sometimes I feel that the bio doesn't really give it enough juice or enough of the truth of what really gets shared, which for me is much deeper than what I can read in these words.
It's so hard to say into the English language, but ultimately the best way to describe it is I open up portals of potential for people. And so when people are sharing, I'm receiving a download not only through the spoken word of what I'm receiving from them, but also I'm gathering data points through their energy field, through what their heart's sharing with me, through what their higher self is sharing with me, through what their past, present, and future potentials are sharing with me, and then also any of their versions of themselves that are coming in the form of guides and angels and ancestors and elders. And I help people to understand the unknown by bringing them into the known, and then opening up the potential of what could exist beyond their mind, beyond what they've known from the past self. And so generally people that come to me and that are guided, they're ready for it. They know that a huge shift is happening, and they know that the version that they were playing out isn't, it's like it doesn't fit anymore. Like the identity of them is kind of starting to dissolve, but they don't necessarily know what that new version of them looks like. But they know that they have this feeling inside of them that there's something else for them, but they don't know what it is. And so I help to open up the portals of potential to bridge the gap between where they are and where they are going to. And sometimes it can be as profound as one conversation, and it helps to totally alter the course of someone's reality. And sometimes there's deeper work with that as well. And so when I'm working with someone, I'm working multidimensionally. I'm working, as I was sharing, like through conversation, but also what else is being presented, and helping them to understand it from a perspective that their human can digest. Because I think sometimes a lot of these conversations are very abstract, they're very out there. We can't really like hold on to it because it's not in the now, and the mind wants to know the now, and it wants to know the how. Whereas when we kind of can find a way to communicate to the human of us, it helps to open up that portal and that imagination. And that's when we talk about timeline shifts, and it can happen overnight because we're literally shifting our vibrational awareness of self and shifting our frequency to be a match to that potential and to that experience that we deeply desire. And so my guides are sharing, I help people actualize and manifest their dreams. I help people connect to their desire and actually experience that in the physical reality. because that's what we came here for, right? Is
Absolutely.
play.
How has that demonstrated for your clients in physical reality? It's one thing touching into the multidimensional and going into those spaces, and we call activating, igniting something within us, igniting the DNA, repatterning beliefs. What have been some demonstrations that your clients have acknowledged, like, I was here and then this happened, or I was here and my life changed because of this?
Oh my gosh, I mean, there's so many. The first one that dropped in was a lady wanted to buy a farm with her husband, and her husband still wanted to have this particular type of job that he really enjoyed. And she found the farm, but there wasn't any options for this type of job. And so we went through these processes, and then the next day she's like, you never guess what happened. This complete random conversation came out of nowhere and aligned her husband to his dream job that was in the area where they could buy the farm. So that's kind of one really amazing experience. Somebody else, they were needing quite a large sum of money to take care of some things, so we worked through a few pieces, and the next day 100 grand dropped into their bank account out of thin air. I've had another lady, she was in a 17-year marriage and she was pretty sure she was going to leave him, and we did some shifting, and now they have the best relationship ever, even better than the first 17 years that they've had. So they stayed in partnership. I've had people that have met their divine partners and gone on to be married and have babies and more children. So very kind of like human experiences that we get to have when we're also expanding out beyond what's here, right? So
amazing. Yeah, and I've witnessed you. I know that you've helped people like double their income in their business, and again, just really reset based on what their frequency, their soul signature is really here for, instead of trying to push against the grain, which is what causes the suffering and causes those incongruencies and the confusion and the malcontent in our lives. So yeah, it's quite wonderful the way that you work with everybody. And this happens in a group called and in one-on-one sessions, in the personal retreats that you do. So it's fascinating. So tell us more about this 3D density and the 5D crystalline potential.
Yeah, so the reason why I wanted to bring this conversation back into awareness is I felt that the last 2 years, there's been a lot of focus, a lot of energy, and a lot of conversation on what's happening on a global scale, right? And I feel like we've just been having the same conversation regurgitated in many different ways for the last 10 years. And one of that being, we're getting ready for this huge shift. And now this huge shift is happening, and everyone seems to be kind of shocked that it's actually happening. And I felt that my observations, and I imagine that there is such a strong magnetic pull towards the conversation of density that it's pulling us ever so slightly out of alignment with ourselves, that is reminding us of the journey of the internal expression, which is the journey back to source, the journey back to oneness, the journey back to unconditional love, the journey back to divine neutrality. And as we start to bring our consciousness and our focus energetically back into this resonance with ourselves, we are then reminded, it's so funny, this plant, as I'm sharing this, just literally moved like that. Like it literally just moved up and down. It starts to activate our cellular memory of the potential that we have as we are activating our divine human blueprints. We're activating that through the raising of our frequency and the clearing out of the denser timeline, which also has to include the continuous cycle of where we are giving our energy and how we're showing up, and the emotional charges to that. And it's complicated for the mind to understand, because the mind wants to have validity on the conversation. It wants to be stuck in that. It wants to be in almost like the thick of it. And so the density piece is the experience of the collective human consciousness that we are having in the 3D separation. The 5D crystalline consciousness is moving away from the separation and coming back to oneness, coming back to source. And when we have that in our resonant field long enough, that's when our cells start to activate and crystallize to the higher frequencies, and we can hold that in our being. And the beauty of this is then we get to feed and ingest that into that 3D matrix system and infuse it with love and support. And we start to come together in community. We start to be bringing through light encoded technology, which really is just our beingness, our essence, our presence, our frequency. And so then whatever we do on the external of that, whether we are building community, whether we are building trust funds to support indigenous tribes, whether we are, you know, coming together and buying land, whether we are learning better sustainable and permaculture practices, whatever that doing piece is, it's coming from a place of harmony and vibrational alignment within our own inner core desire, our own inner core being. And so when we talk about the new earth, and we talk about the collapsing of the timelines and the separation between 3D and 5D, it's the integration of all of it. And it's how we choose to show up in each experience, because we're never totally free from 3D density, but our attachment to it is what can shift. Our focus to it is what can shift, and our connection to its hold on us is what can shift. And that's when we really start to feel a vibrational difference in our body. Like me 10 years ago would not have been able to withstand the light that comes through as it comes through now. And as I'm sharing this, I love that, like, literally your whole face is like lit up right now. It's like, John's like, can you talk to me about crystalline energy? And his face turns into this like angelic being or something. I'm like, and so what I've personally been experiencing a lot of this year is the body has needed time to catch up with perhaps where our consciousness has an awareness of where we're vibrating. And so the body has needed a lot of love and attention and really flowing with the body, not forcing ourselves into strict regimes and practices that perhaps were once taught to us by spiritual groups and things. We're really learning to be fluid, but also be grounded, be in the moment and in flow, but still have structure and stability and grounding. And so it's kind of bouncing between these two aspects of self, so that there's spaciousness for when, quite frankly, I call it just literally getting blasted with light. There's some days that I can play very well in this kind of human experience of schedules and time zones and travel and things. And there's other times where I feel vibrationally that my body just needs to sit and be in complete stillness and separation from any and all other frequencies and any and all other beings and energy.
And that's the crux of the question, though. How do we navigate the doing part that we need to do in this 3D point? Because if you're here and you're supposed to be here, and it requires this planning and scheduling, or these very linear human 3D things that we do as human beings, but your body's requesting space and all that, that's what's causing some of the stuff. That's what's causing some of the exhaustion. That's what's causing some of the I wish I wasn't here and having to deal with this crapper that someone else would do it for me. And for me, that's also an indication of kind of how we wish someone would hold us or do the hard work of our emotional involvement for us. And it doesn't happen that way. So the dance between 3D and 5D, as much as the body may want to be in space, and for people who work 9-to-5 jobs, who have kids, who are taking care of elderly or the sick, or who are dealing with their own health problems or financial challenges, or maybe the challenges that they just have too much and don't know what to do with and wish that they can contribute to it, the mind starts to take over. And so how do we find the fluidity in between that space, or maybe even just find the compassion that, it requires that we're in that space from time to time?
Yeah, I would say one is we are completely in control of the intensity of what we are receiving. And so we can really, hey, spirit, time out. I need a few days, right? And we forget that we're in control of our reality, right? We are and we're not. There's divine will, and then there's our humanness. But the days where there's a lot of kind of doing and the body's wanting to rest, it's like finding the spaciousness within the doing. Are all the things that the mind has told us to do really needing to be done on that day? Right. And the mind will always convince us, and it will validate all the reasons why it has to be busy. Well, why is that? It's because the ego wants to be busy because it wants to show up for our consciousness that it's needed. It's the identity, right? And the mind will always have the story, and it will always be really firmly rooted in the story. And so we want to kind of zoom out from that and go into self-awareness through checking ourselves through the observer, which is bringing our consciousness back to the almost like energetically to the back of our head, and then seeing through the reality of the experience of what we're having through the eyes of the observer. Is there spaciousness that could be created right now? And sometimes it could be as simple as I'm experiencing waves of energy that's coming up in the form of emotion. I don't know where this emotion is coming from, but I know I need the spaciousness to be able to sit in this emotion and feel it. But I have a very busy day doing all these things. So tune in, body. What do you need right now in this present moment to feel in alignment to create spaciousness with your day? And sometimes it's as simple, it's always the simplest solutions that we overcomplicate. It's as simple as taking 10 cleansing breaths and allowing maybe a 5 or 10 minute check-in with the body. What do you need right now? Because time happens from us, not to us. Space is how we experience the time of this physical reality. And so the mind is going to convince us that there's no time, that there's the busyness, and that there isn't time to integrate or to have the luxury of a day to just lie in bed and process everything. Well, great. If you don't have a day, condense that time into one moment, and you will experience something beyond what we've experienced, because the mind wants to understand linear. It's A to B. We've got our schedule, we've got our box, but we also talk about wanting to raise our frequency and live in fifth dimensional consciousness. Well, fifth dimensional consciousness is abstract, it's non-linear. So how do we mix those two? Time happens from us. To take a moment. What do you need in this moment? You know, I just really need to take a breath. So we take a breath. What do we need beyond that moment? Is there moments that could be shifted to allow for the experience? And our consciousnesses of the higher dimensional realms don't give us anything that we can't handle on an energetic and emotional basis. But if there are moments where it's like, I hear this a lot, like, oh, I've done so much work already, or, you know, yeah, I was really getting blasted with all the energies, you know, it kind of becomes this thing. And it's like, but as we're sharing that, we're still kind of getting stuck in the ego of it, right? The validation, like, yeah, I'm doing everything to raise my frequency, or, oh, I'm in 5D. It's like, well, when we share that, like, are we really? Do we need to even share that? Like, someone will know how you're vibing at, because they will feel it. They will feel an energy. And sometimes when you're really expanded in your frequency, it can be really intense for people because they're not used to being around that much energy. Right. And then for themselves, when we start to kind of oscillate up and down through these different dimensional awarenesses of self, we're not used to being totally expanded all the time. We're finding grounding with that as we have it's almost like a time delay with our consciousness and our body. And so it's allowing our body to catch up, but also meeting us where our body's at. And sometimes it's the bridge is taking a breath and asking the body, what do we need? So to bring that in together, when we talk about 3D density and 5D crystalline consciousness, it's the moment, it's the present moment and this breath. And John, can I share the experience of last week? because I feel this will be important. Okay, so it was my final day in Tulum, and I was guided to go to a cenote, which is a body of water, really, really powerful, activating water. It's so pure, so crystalline. And at the exact moment I had swam around the circle, a man was in the water, and the energy shifted, and I could feel something really strong in my body, and I didn't know what it was. And I thought they were just being louder and playing. And the next thing I saw was a body being pulled out of the water by this man. So to condense this story, I swam over and helped get the man out of the water. But my first instinct when I saw the guy was he was dead. Like I felt in my beingness like, wow, I'm seeing this man pull a dead body out of the water. So we laid him outside, and instantly his angels were all around him. And I said to his angels, like, oh, hang on, like let's give him a chance. Like he might want to come back. And they said, well, his time's done, but you can try. And so we did CPR, and they said, but you're not to do CPR. So I facilitated and held space whilst his family did CPR. And we were doing this for about 15 minutes. And all the while I could just see like this column of golden energy, like from his body. And I was feeling his pulse and had my hand on his leg. And I was tuning into him. I was like, where are you? And he was showing me it was in a coma, and he was in deep dream space, but he was complete. He was happy to cross over. And I shared with him, well, are you sure? Because you can come back if you want to, and your family's here and they love you very much. And I was asking his angels, and I asked them, I was like, okay, so if he's happy to cross over, and I'm sensing that, and I'm holding this space for that, what are we doing? Why are we trying to save his life? And they said that, well, it's for his family, so that they know that they did everything that they could to save his life, so they wouldn't spend the rest of their lives wishing that they had done more. And I asked, well, what is my role in this moment? And they said, you're holding space, you're holding the field, you're holding it open for him, and you're also holding it for the family. So I'm sparing you the details of, and so we were there, for about 15 minutes. And then I saw his soul. He was halfway between his body and halfway up towards the sky. And he just said, I'm complete. I understand now. I feel really complete. And I felt a lot of peace. And then he moved up. He went into the light. And that exact moment was when the ambulance arrived.
Wow.
To come and save him. And so I did clearing with the land, did clearing the water, gave my respects to the family, and went through my own emotional release of what that was, right? That experience of being close to death, seeing death right before you. And the gift of that is what I want to share, which is relevant to what I've been talking about, is the moment is so precious and so powerful. And the breath is what connects us to the moment, because to be here, we have to breathe. To be in this physical reality, we cannot be here without breath. And we cannot experience a moment without that breath. And so when we go into that deeper, and that's what I've been in the inquiry of these last few days, is we make everything so complicated of what this journey means, of what it means to ascend, of what it means to live our best life, to manifest, and keep coming back to the breath and keep coming back to the moment. Because when we are in this whirlwind and this tornado of energy, and John, I've had a very interesting couple of days of travel. It's been a whirlwind and a tornado. Was I present? Probably not. Was I in my body? Probably not. Was I grounding? Probably not. So whenever we're experiencing this on the external, or this in the internal, as our bodies are going through these shifts and we're experiencing waves of emotion, as we're releasing so much so that we can hold a higher concentration of who we be as our starseed self, as our divine self, bring it back to the breath and experience that moment. If this moment was all there is, which is all there is that exists, is this moment, are we connected to this moment, or is our mind focused on 20 steps ahead? Or is it worried about 20 steps before us?
So how do we get people into the moment? How can we, for everyone that's listening, what is it? Again, understand the breath and the being present with that. What are some things that you use with your clients or that you personally use to like bring you back and to stop future projecting and past projecting and all of this to-do list or survival tactics that we need, and to truly be present like you were in the cenote and being able to hold the space between those dimensions?
So the first piece is we need to give the ego the space that it needs to share what it needs to share. And I think quite often we want to bring us back to the present moment. And so we try meditating, or, we want to just be in a higher frequency. And so we just kind of like brush it to the side. When we actually give the ego the floor and allow it to go all out, and I'm talking, maybe it's just writing down what is all that we have in our minds that is bringing us out of alignment, that's bringing us ever so slightly in the energy of like fear and conflict and divide and envy and judgment and hurt. And we need to give ego the floor, not with other people, not with other experiences, but really with ourselves. And that's the self-inquiry, is the self-awareness, because as we give ego the floor, we can start to understand its pattern and behavior that is perhaps keeping us stuck or looping in certain cycles and patterns. And we'll know that by the types of relationships we have, by the types of experiences that we're calling in to our present moment. And so as we go into that with the ego, we can then start to diffuse the ego. We can start to let go of the charge that we've given it, that's keeping us in those patterns and looping cycles. And sometimes it could be letting ego have its emotional release. We were having this conversation the other day, like sometimes we just need to be allowed the space to fully express what's coming through for us. It doesn't matter whether it's valid or not, or whether it's true or not, or whether so-and-so or this thing or that thing. But as we give ego the floor and we allow ourselves to feel whatever it is that we need to feel, we can start to diffuse it. And I think so often we're taught that we need to be love light, that we need to be in Zen bliss. And that's just not actually practical for the human experience. That's not part of why we're here. We're here to understand the richness and the depths of the human spirit, which also happens to be part of experiencing the emotion and experiencing the anger and the rage. And as we allow ego the floor to go through its own process, it will diffuse the charge, and we won't be as connected to it anymore, because we're not trying to stuff it down with oh, it's okay, really, I have all this stuff to deal with, but I'm just going to keep saying that I'm Zen bliss and love light. There's the shadow part of us that we also need to learn to love and to integrate and to witness and to experience.
Well, I don't think we truly step into the 5D until we truly do that. We may glimpse it. We may get a sense of it and a sense of euphoria from touching that space. But then we go back down into 3D, because these things really have to be integrated to be able to hold that space, because it's not just an anchor pulling us back.
Yeah. And someone will experience it like you've gone on a steep incline and you're at the top of the peak and you think it's really, really amazing. And it's suddenly like someone's chucked you off the top of the peak and you feel you're right back where you started again. Right. And then maybe you go up another peak, but it didn't feel as far that time. And then you get knocked back down again.
And then we start blaming it on circumstances. Well, this brought me down for 5D, or this other thing caused it, or this person did this. And it's like, no, hold on a second. It's all about us.
Me, myself, and I. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all about us. So when you start becoming aware of that radical truth within yourself, it's like, oh, they're showing up for me to show me where I'm not in 5D. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you. Yeah.
Exactly. And what happens is it starts to stabilize after a while. So these higher peaks that we experience, they feel more integrated. They're not as like, scatty in our energy field. We feel more grounded in the truth of light. And then when we are experiencing something that is less than appetizing, shall we say, we're not as stuck in it. There's a lightness that we feel even if our house is burning down. Even if we've just dissolved a 30-year relationship, there's the emotional charge starts to be diffused, because we find more longer term and resonant grounding with the truth of the experiences that we're having in the human. I'm sorry to cut you off because I realized you weren't done talking.
I was done talking, so it was perfect.
Okay, good.
So it's perfect what you brought in also. And again, there's been a big shift in embodiments and bringing back in our body and all that. And that really was quite different from conversations 3 to 5 years ago, from 3D to 5D, 3D to 5D. And so bringing it back in is wonderful, because to bring up this conversation again and to reignite it and know that we're bridging the worlds, we're not letting one go, we're bridging the worlds, is really important to consider. Because none of us are going to be free from the 3D world until everybody's free from the 3D world. Because we get to experience that in relationship to other people. So it's fascinating. So what are you sharing with people? What are you sharing in your classes and in your group calls? We'll get into the special offer in a little bit, and we'll get into Q&A. But what is it that you continue to roll out that's bringing people and the people who follow you and sign up into this process of self-awareness, is what I would call it, and self-responsibility also, and also being with the energy and navigating with it?
Yeah, I mean, I really love to create intentional and powerful spaces of divine potential as we integrate the humanness in us, which also includes the ego component. It also includes perhaps, where we haven't been totally showing up for ourselves in the way that we could have, making some choices because there's a bit of sabotaging behavior coming through. And through that, holding a space that is beyond the known, which is the unknown, which is the quantum field, which is the integration of all of self. And so when I lead people through multidimensional journeys and multidimensional practices, it's helping to create tangible shifts in the physical reality, right? And so I always say, like, a lot of people when I'm moving through these, like when I'm doing the DNA activations, or I'm working with people privately, or I'm running group programs, the consciousness is always the same. It's holding a mirror back up to everyone that's coming into the space, so that they can go through their own self-exploration of what is their journey, what is relevant to them, and less interested on the story of the new age and the martyrdom and a lot of these kind of programs that are kind of feel very stagnant and outdated to me. Like, I feel there's a lot of conversations that have just been recycled for many years, and I really feel that we've moved beyond what a lot of that was for us. And at a time, I feel we did need to kind of hold on to a lot of these belief structures and systems, but as we keep kind of peeling back the layers of the onion, it's like it keeps coming back to source, which is within us. It keeps coming back to oneness, which is within us. And it doesn't matter the journey of how we get there, but that was one of our biggest purposes in the physical reality. And then how we get to show up for others is everything when we're embodied in our own divinity, when we're embodied in our own self-expression. And so when I'm sharing, I could call these programs, like I ran out of names. It's just frequency. It's just relevant frequency to now, that makes sense to now, that is congruent to now. And bringing people into the space of now, and what is the frequencies that we can embody and activate within ourselves now. And then that's the alignment piece, and then the contribution piece, and then the stuff, like whatever the stuff wants to be for somebody, like deepening in a relationship, changing jobs, moving homes, signing the Peace Corps, like running 26 miles to set up a foundation. Like that's the doing part, right? It's through desire of inspired action. Like me personally, this year has been very interesting to continue being in the observer and really recognizing and feeling it instantly, like when I'm ever so slightly out of alignment, how instantly it manifests in my physical experience. And it could be as simple as I get into a taxi with a woman that maybe had a bit of funky energy. So, you know, I'm in her physical hot car and I'm bringing that energy with me. I'm not being in the moment and clearing that energy before I go on to the next experience. And then because I've brought that energy in with me, then the next experience is ever so slightly out of alignment. It's feeling okay just enough to be an experience of joy, but there's something that's ever so slightly off. And so we want to be getting better at coming back into the moment, coming back into presence, and coming back into alignment with all of these structures that's happening. And especially the body is needing that extra attention. As I was sharing before, it's like, you know, not that we have to suddenly be fasting 7 days on and 7 days off, or only drinking green juices and, you know, never indulging in a takeaway again. Like but it is being mindful of like, how is our body reacting and responding? Is this our highest expression? And is this an alignment for us? Like for me, my body will tell me straight away when I'm out of alignment because of the way things instantly manifest. You know?
Yeah, I love when you're talking about the frequency that's showing up now and what we're being called to now, and it's all in the present moment. And what I saw like a hall, like this rotunda of hall with doors that we can see. And as a new frequency shows up, there's light that's shown on the door that we didn't know was a potential that we can cross through. So some of the conversations that were perhaps repetitive, that were part of the collective, that a lot of people were talking about very similar things within our community. And they're regurgitated. It's like, for some reason, the light wasn't able to be shown on the door that was available in and out, and the doors are opening. The vistas for that rotunda to be seen, and the light coming in to illuminate that there's other places to step through instead of the same 3 doors that we've been seeing for the last 5 years, are becoming more accessible to more people. And that's exciting. And as that becomes accessible, there's an excitement, but there's also a hesitation, because what's on the other side of that door? I'm comfortable with this, right? And how is it that we can help people to get comfortable with the uncomfortable? Because it's new. Those new doorways are not something that we're used to. And in our community, if you've been doing your work, you know that sometimes when you do your work, there's radical shifts. It's like, damn, another radical shift. Here we go again. Do I want to go through there or not? My body's saying I have to, because it's hurting, because it can't stand this vibration anymore. Or it knows that it needs to grow out of this cocoon, more like it. And so getting people to overcome that feeling of hesitation or that fear, or some people are calling it hopelessness now. And I think it's more of a, damn, this is happening again, and I don't want to step through another one.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to be comfortable. And we literally, the comfortableness of what we feel in the familiarity of what's already known to us is, it may be in that moment, but as we know that there's a new doorway that we're being invited to step through, the familiarity of that comfortableness of what we felt before won't be grounded for much longer. Because the minute we have that thought that there is something beyond, we've already started to detach from what was. And a lot of people get stuck in the middle, right? They get stuck in that kind of the middle part of They want to stay there, but now that's starting to fall apart. They want to go through that door, but they don't know. And now they don't even know what they do know, because what they do know or did know isn't feeling grounded anymore. And so this bit here is where I kind of come in and support, because I get it, because spirit has made me, I have made myself go through many experiences of the known to the unknown, of letting everything go before the next step is even revealed, and literally going through the door and not necessarily even having all of the pieces put together. Because when we're operating from a more expanded consciousness of self, so 5D, 6D, 7D and beyond, it's abstract, it's non-linear. So we may get one piece of information coming from over here, we may get a feeling here, we may have a conversation with somebody over here, and it won't all make sense to the linear experience and version of us until we're ready to receive that journey. And so we have to remind ourselves as well is patience with the linear experience, patience with ourselves, of being okay to make a mistake.
Right. I
got it wrong. Okay. Well, I'm pleased that I experienced that, because now I understand what getting it wrong feels like. What would it feel like getting it right? Let's take a peek through this door. We're source consciousness, experiencing all realities, all potentials, all versions, all explorations, all frequencies, and whatever timeline we choose to vibrate on, whatever parallel universe we choose to connect to, it's all now. And so our consciousness can connect to now and choose the path of least resistance, which, quite ironically, when we say this, the path of least resistance is always the path that's going to have some resistance to it, because if it was easy, everyone would be making these massive transformations in their lives. So the path of least resistance is the one thing that we are most resistant to doing, which is trusting that we're going to make a change.
I agree with you.
And look at what's happening on the planet when we look at the macro. Oh, I think it cut out for a second.
You're here, yeah.
But when we look at the macro of the collective shared experience, what was known isn't working. The path of least resistance is the most resistant to the most of us on the planet, because most of us on the planet have had to look at these deep inner changes and the familiarity and comfortableness of, because I hear this a lot, let's just get back to normal. There is no normal anymore. We've shifted beyond anything of what that world was. That world does not exist for us as a collective. We're in the middle right now. We're in the uncomfortableness of the unknown. We don't even know what the known was anymore, because that's not working. And what can we do in the middle to be ready for what we don't know, but we can feel that shift inside of us? Our frequency, our frequency, our frequency, and our frequency.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tremendous what's coming up energetically through the transmission, and also what's being imprinted. And again, the whole concept of the being wrong and the being right. Sometimes being wrong is being right, but the judgment and the shame and the guilt that surrounds a particular choice or the outcome of that choice is really what binds. And being in non-resistance and being in non-resistance of the self in flowing expression. And that's where I feel like that's when you're not in resistance to your organic flow. So it's beautiful the way that you describe it and transmit it. So I can't believe we've been on 45 minutes already. We need to get into Q&A. So if y'all want, we already have people with their hands raised. I want to get into that. But let's go through your special offer first. And so April, if you don't mind, pretty please, she's already done it. She's put the special offer link in the chat box. So click on that, and Zoe's put together a really special program for us here on BTO. She always does. And we always get rave reviews about it. But again, the link is in the chat box. You can click on it there to access the page and follow along as Zoe is going to give us an overview of what you're going to get when you participate in the transmissions and activations that are available. To get to that page, for some reason you can't find it in the chat box, just open up a new web browser and type in Beyond the Ordinary Show Zoe26, and it'll take you to that same page. And Zoe, guide us through what people are going to be in relationship with you during this special offer.
Thank you. So every year I tend to kind of run some kind of masterclass at the end of the year, which is the transition of the timeline of that previous year and the timeline of the year coming. And it's such a beautiful moment for us to take a pause and come into reflection and deep inquiry as to the experiences that we've just had, and also paving the way through the completion of that year of what wants to come through. And so when I tuned in and I asked Spirit, what is the highest expression that I can share with people? I got the message to run a 2022 alignment masterclass. And we're going to be coming together on the 1st of December, which I think the date will be updated on it, but it's the 1st of December. And it's really helping people to expand the vision beyond, right? So we have an idea of the things of the doing, and I want to take us through a really deep practice of self-awareness of what is beyond the beyond, what is beyond the unknown of what we thought we might understand, and what else wants to come through, what else is wanting to be birthed through us. And so we will be kind of, coming into some completion energetic practices with 2021, and then we're going to be opening up the space and the energetic transmission of light for what wants to come through for everyone for 2022. And the intention of that is really helping people to awaken and activate divine potential and really fine tune our awareness of self, of the experiences that we're calling in. And so I'm wanting to support as many people as I can towards the end of the year to get ready, right? And 2022, 23, 24, 25 are going to be massive transformational years for us on the planet. And so the foundations that we're anchoring in now through our frequency is what is going to support us for these next few years, and also really the next decade. And what we are doing now and anchoring of these foundations is what's going to really facilitate that change and help us to kind of feel more grounded in those resonant higher frequencies. Because it's like as I was sharing before, it's like the frequencies are coming through and we're sort of experiencing them within our bodies, but then it's almost like our bodies kind of drop down again. And it's like, how can we get the body to catch up? Well, there's no catching up. It's just being in a resonant frequency with ourselves and then being grounded in that. So we're going to be doing a lot of energy work, a lot of energy clearing, a lot of energy activating. I always pull through various expressions of light that want to come in through light language, DNA activation, toning, chanting, deep cellular breath work. But also some really practical human stuff as well. So we'll be grabbing our journals, we'll be writing down some intentions, we'll be intuitively writing through these expressions of what wants to be shared. So one thing that I've been shown recently is this really amazing tool with activating the Merkaba grid, but also working with it in a way that's spinning reality to us. And so there is different expressions that are coming out through that that my guides are wanting me to share in the masterclass. And also allowing the spaciousness for more of this deeper energetic work that we're going to be wanting to become masters of, that we're learning to become masters of. And so there's a lot of support in the class. We'll probably run for about 2.5 hours. So definitely show up fresh, prepared. I'll give you all the instructions on how to prepare your body ahead of time and leave time for integration afterwards. And there's always access to a replay as well if you can't make it live. I mean, try to if you can. And, even if it's 4 a.m, wake up and join us and just plan to sleep afterwards or something. But if you really can, the replay will be uploaded straight away afterwards. And then in addition to that, for continued support and integration, there's access into the community for 3 months. So there's 3 live calls, and also access to online courses and a whole library of activations and meditations. There's a lot of support after the masterclass as well for everyone for 3 months as we're moving into the new year. And then package B, I've opened up a limited amount of private sessions with me for anyone that's wanting to have that one-on-one support and to go a bit deeper. I very rarely open up one-on-one sessions. This is only the second time I've done this year. So I anticipate that they will get full very quickly. So if you are wanting that deeper connection, then be sure to book in. And I have opened up some space before December to see as many people as I can. And so also with booking, like, you know, if you're feeling resonant to this and you want us to kind of drop in on a one-on-one session, then create that space for yourself as well. And then with the masterclass, we will be having time for Q&A like all throughout. You know, I'll have access to the chat and things as well. So there's a lot of fluidity with that. There'll be little breaks in between each energetic transmission. And so it's not going to be like, you know, that there'll be spaciousness within the call. That's why we'll run for like 2.5 hours, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit shorter. It just depends. Like it will come into energetic completion. And so, yeah, that's really what I'm offering. It's only for BTO community. You can't sign up for a session with me unless you go through BTO. This is the only time I'm opening up private sessions for at least another 6 to 8 months. Wow. So really get on that, because I'm working with clients privately in the long-term containers. So this is something really unique. And also with this masterclass as well, these masterclasses, they are a really amazing opportunity to go deep within yourself whilst being in the energetic support of a group experience. And also with the longer term support of that, with all the meditations and courses. Some of them is like helping you with your abundance. There's a 4-hour abundance frequency accelerator program. There's channeling of spirit. There's a divine feminine program. There's expanded manifesting. There's a whole library of support for you for 3 months as well.
Amazing what it's offered. So, y'all, this offer on the 2 packages are just, again, the time you're going to get with Zoe and the activations you're going to receive are really phenomenal. I'm excited about the 2022 alignment, the live masterclass. This is going to be really powerful with a lot of stuff coming in. I've been working with Zoe off and on for the last couple of months. And again, the attunements to the energy, the grounding in when we feel the wobbliness, the visioning of what's coming in and attuning to it in its most amplified benevolence and beneficial, joyful way. It's all occurring during these calls. And so I know what she's awakening and activating and aligning the group into. So that by itself is going to be fantastic. On top of that, you get the daily meditations, 10 powerful daily meditations that you can work to, again, to align with gratitude, to step in the present moment, to connect with your intentions, unconditional love. Again, it's all listed on there. But these are really strong because I really see Zoe as a transmitter for so many of us, as a conduit, like that copper wire that connects the cells that allow them each to really charge. And then you get the Haven Collective community for 3 months. And again, the 3 live month access for that is phenomenal. And again, that's only package A. It's $147 and a 2 payment option. And for only $50 more with the first 30 people that sign up, you get your 30-minute private session with Zoe. So you all take advantage of it. And you're going to pretty much book from what Zoe's saying, most of y'all are going to book your sessions during the month of November. So what a wonderful opportunity as we get into these powerful gateways of 11/11 coming up. We're in eclipse season with so much is topsy-turvy here over the next few months. We have the 12/12 gateway. We have the winter solstice coming up as well. So powerful, amplified energies that seems that we're always into, but they're getting even more powerful as we activate more within us. So to have someone that can hold and calibrate that energy in that space and to transmit it and to amplify everybody else on a call simultaneously, it just serves as the stepping stone that keeps forming more stepping stones to give you access to this beauty that we're really are learning that we can access if only we stop and pause in the now, learn how to receive like we've never received before, and learn not to carry that judgment in the way that we've been carrying it, and release the patterns and the blocks and the beliefs. So again, this is fantastic. You all sign up. The link, again, it's in the chat box. Again, there's 30 spots for 30-minute sessions with Zoe. And if you can't find the link in the chat box, you can always, again, go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Zoe26, and it'll take you to that same page. And Zoe, thank you for this generous offer and for opening up private sessions. And from this, let's go ahead and dive into live calls. So first caller I want to take, let's go to Hannah. Hannah, let's get you to unmute yourself. And if you want to start your video, that'd be wonderful as well. Hi, welcome.
Hello, thank you. It's good to be back.
Hannah was on yesterday. It's Hannah week.
Yes. And I love the synchronicity and the progress, because the crown that I had from Suzanne's meditation last night, I discovered what it was. It is living crystal. Now we know crystals are sentient beings that we can interact with, but this was different. It was more like what we understand as life, like a tree growing, like an animal. It's our scientific definition of life, and yet it was crystal. And it was tree, apple and grape with leaves and flowers out of crystal. And it was a live crystal. It was really cool. And then to have your talk being the 5D crystalline, it was really cool.
Beautiful.
Do you have a question for Zoe?
I have a few comments, and then I would like to just hear what Zoe's picking up and has to share. I really appreciate your method. It's the first person I've heard that approaches this work similar to me. A lot of people talk about how we're here, it's spirit having a physical experience, which is true. But my knee-jerk reaction is yes, but it's also physical having a spiritual experience. And I love how you were talking about it. And the way I describe it is honoring and holding our physical sacred and giving it space to express and to grow and to raise its vibration at the level that, or the pace that it's comfortable with, and all of the other multi-dimensions that we are: emotion, mind, energy, consciousness, space.
So where's the question leading to?
The question is, I feel like my timeline, I've wanted to activate my potential before now, but I've definitely been told by guides and helpers that my divine timing wasn't yet. And I'm pretty sure it's now is my divine timing. We've finally come to where I fit in the divine timeline for sharing what I have to share. And I was just curious, from your sensing, what comment you had on that and what you're reading about that.
Okay. Well, before you even asked the question, what I was observing was, I feel like she wants her own show, and I feel like she's ready to share, because she has a fire in her and she has a message that wants to come through. And There's no coincidence that you were on yesterday and you're on today. You're
Yeah.
like feeling the buzz of that. You're feeling the connection of that. And
Feels like it's finally time.
Yeah. And what I would say to you to bring the power back to you is you don't need my permission to be ready. You don't need me to tell you that you're in divine alignment.
Right.
You feel it.
I do.
You embody it.
Yeah.
You're resonating with it.
Yeah.
So you're already ready to be ready for whatever it is that you wanted to be ready for. And so every day now, embody that version of you and walk and speak and act and drink and eat and laugh and cry as the embodiment of that.
It's cool. I actually already have, because this afternoon I shared dowsing and kinesiology with my boss, who's very interested in that sort of stuff. And I've never shared that I'm highly skilled at that. Beautiful. And so it's already started.
I love how this is coming in, because again, we talk about the ascension and divinity and the access of energies, but today's conversation is the 3D and the 5D, and you're taking 5D and you're applying it into 3D to bridge it together. And so
absolutely,
it's so perfect.
Yeah.
Of what's happening. And so to put it into physical form, to put it into action, regardless of the judgment of how we think it's going to receive, not received, our ego is going to play with it. And we know our ego is going to play with it.
Yeah. And the insights I've been given about ego are also, I'm excited to share.
Yeah.
Because I've been given some unique insights onto ego as well. So
amazing. So there you go. What a beautiful mirror Zoe is for you right now. Just like, why do you need me to confirm?
Yeah. It was definitely a resonance of, oh, there's someone who's approaching it similar to me. And this is the first person I've heard who has a similar approach to honoring the body and the 3D density, really honoring that and holding that sacred and giving that the space to bring it up and come along with us, because every part of our human beingness is supposed to experience the 5D crystalline potential.
And thank you so much. I want to get some more callers. It's great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, Hannah.
All right.
Don't mean to cut you off. You're amazing.
That's okay. Thank you.
All right, let's go to where'd he go? Daniel, let's get you to unmute, please.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted.
You are.
I want to thank you, John. I've watched about 6 of these so far, and there's a lot of consistency with your guests. I mean, we're talking about things that seem to make a lot of sense on a higher level. And it's interesting that you mentioned time quite a few times this time. And it seems like the time when that email comes to the time that it actually starts, the time is expanded tremendously. And I just wondered if you could address that.
Oh, that's interesting, Zoe. Yeah, what do you have to say about time expanding?
So yeah, I mean, time can expand and it contract given our observations of it, right? And so what you're observing in the observations of your reality is expansion. So your energy is expanding, your consciousness is becoming present to the moment, so that you're not in the future and you're not in the past, you're in the power of now, which is 0 point stillness. You know, it's resetting ourselves back to divine potential beyond imprints and programs and collective consciousness. And so we're experiencing time as an extension of our witnessing of this experience. So that's what you're kind of having, right? And you're in flow with these conversations, and these conversations tend to have an energetic impact on us because we're having conversations at a elevated potential. We're having conversations of a perspective beyond the density. And so you're kind of in the flow with these conversations at the same time. Spirit's guiding you, your soul is guiding you to the right moment to experience the transmission that is helping you to activate that something is shifting within you. And so I think that's really beautiful that your observations of that is very present, and you're, okay, this is interesting. I've been having these experiences these last few days, and it's every time. And there's an expansion that's happening and it feels good in my heart. And so keep doing more of that. And that will lead to great things in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, thank you very much.
Wonderful.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much for calling in. It's great to see you. All right, Zoe, this may be a bit complicated because this can be a whole call. But let's see if we can get a basic explanation of this. Because Luana and maybe a few other people on the call also may want to explain the 3D and the 5D concept.
So in my most primitive way of what I personally experience is 3D is the physical reality. It's duality, and it's the most separated from itself, which is source. And as we move through fourth dimensional awareness, which is non-linear, it's abstract, it's time, it's beyond time, we start to understand a fifth dimensional concept, which is an elevated potential of our consciousness. And what tends to have happened in our past experience of this timeline was we were experiencing fifth dimensional consciousness, but out of body, because it was a frequency that our bodies could not be in, it couldn't embody. And so many of us would have these elevated experiences, synchronicity and love and all these things, but not really in the body. That's why then we would come back to the body would feel really dense and heavy, and nothing would have really shifted in our physical reality. That's because our body was still vibrating in 3D awareness of duality and separation. So what we're doing as we're coming into awareness of our divinity and our potential, the bridge between these two vibrational experiences are coming closer together. When we talk about the veils are thinning, right? The walls between dimensional awarenesses it's like translucent. We're able to have the fifth dimensional experience in a physical 3D awareness. So not necessarily leaving 3D behind, but we are encompassing and incorporating the multidimensional version of us in the 3D experience. So we are experiencing ourselves in this present moment as 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D, 8D, 9D, 10D, 11D, 12D, to infinity and beyond and back again. And we are able to harmonize the song of the multidimensional version. And so what I experience is sometimes I can be having a conversation with somebody in front of me, and I'm aware that I have a mug and I'm touching this mug and I'm drinking and there's a warm liquid and it's going down my throat. We're having an experience, but then perhaps we start to have a conversation, and the conversation is of an elevated potential. There's a consciousness that's happening in that conversation that is having an energetic shift in my being. Suddenly I'm feeling lighter, like my eyes are feeling brighter, like I feel my heart starting to open. And then I'll start to feel things like this happened with my friend the other day. We were in this experience, and then like a blue fairy light literally flashed past my eyes, and I went, and she's looking at me, and I was like, did you see that? And she explained what I was seeing, and we're like, oh, that's interesting. So that's that 5D integration, that multidimensionality, that integration is we're learning to see worlds beyond worlds of what we could have imagined without the limitation of the physical. So that's my best explanation. And you're right, it is a whole conversation.
Yeah, it's a great explanation. And then actually taking people through a journey of feeling from the 3D into the 5D and back, which I have a feeling that's going to be part of your 2022
always
class, which is
always.
It's really cool to go in and out and to know viscerally what the body picks up, what the etheric body picks up, and and how the mind handles it, how it interprets it, it's just a whole nother level of access within yourself that you know how to navigate, which is amazing. And you're so masterful at doing that. All right, let's get to another caller. Well, since I'm talking about the masterclass, y'all, again, the special offer, again, the link is in the chat box. And you have the masterclass, you have the meditations, you have the Haven Collective for 3 months in the first offer, 2 payment options. And then for another $50, first 30 people who sign up get a 30-minute private session with Zoe. So you all take advantage of that. Again, it's in the chat box. Don't forget before you leave tonight. There's some great questions that came into the Q&A, but I want to take a live caller first. And we're gonna go through a lot of live callers today. I have a feeling that we're gonna get through most of y'all. Jill, let's go to you. Welcome to the call.
Hey, I was calling her in.
Thank you.
I was like,
I'm
pick
so
Jill,
glad you
pick
called
Jill,
on
pick
me.
Jill.
Because I was wondering, I put my hand up right away just because I was supposed to put my hand up. I had no idea why until you told your story about Tulum. And I don't know who else you told that for, but you definitely told it for me. I went through a near-death experience in my 20s. I didn't get to come back with any memory of it other than that I didn't want to come back. And I've been with that for a long time. I'll make it as short as I can. Recently, I found out that the reason why I came back was for my family, because I got shown what they would go through if I didn't come back. So I know I'm coming into a time where there's an integration of more of the reason why I came back, because that was all I was allowed to know at the time, that, you know, to understand that. So my question is there anything that you can pick up that's really important for me to know about that time and this time that we're in? And John, I know all about the wobbles. So that just really spoke to me as well. So I know that's all part of it. So is that a clear enough question for you?
It is. I'd like to start with definitely booking for a session, because there's...
I already did.
Okay, great. Because there's a lot that's coming through. I'm like, oh, we need to go deeper with this. But what I will share in this moment for you is there's still some sadness around that experience. And so when we do the session, I'd love for us to go deeper into that. But just in this moment, I want you to just place your hands on your heart for me. And behind you, there is a version of you that is a warrior. He's a huge, kind of like 6 to 8 foot being. And he's like got his hands on the back of your shoulders. And I just want you to lean back for me ever so slightly. There we go. And I want you to just feel, yeah, I'm getting full body shivers. I want you to just feel that energy and that strength that you're holding for yourself. Okay. And I want to remind you that you're not alone. You didn't have to do this alone. You're not out on your own. You were never left behind. You're exactly where you needed to be. And you're coming into that warrior energy. You're coming into that strength, the kind of strength that you wish your dad had. And you have that. And that's activating within you as you're setting a new timeline for yourself. So I want you to imagine a golden cord of energy from your heart. And that golden cord of energy is going out into your future and showing you the exact steps, the exact downloads, the exact knowing of everything that is here for you. Take a deep breath in. Good. Good. Give yourself a big hug. There we go. Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow.
I look forward to diving in deeper with you.
Me too.
My
Wow.
guides are like, she needs to do a session. I was like, I know. Well, I'll tell her. It's like a non-negotiable. I feel
Beautiful,
that.
Jill. Oh, so amazing.
Thank you.
Jill, how old were you when that happened?
23, I think.
23. Were you always this loving, or is that something that you came back with?
I was always this loving, but I had a lot of crap too.
Yeah.
But I think I always was this loving
Amazing.
looking
She
back.
gives the best hugs. I bet you give the best hugs.
Uh-huh.
I think when you
do.
hug someone, you're like, it's a full like heart Care Bear hug. I can feel
Mhm.
that. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I just ask you because you carry that resonance of love and you carry very strong
Yeah,
love. And it reminds me of the energy that I feel from the other side. It's very potent and knowing. And so you call in that warrior, Zoe, it's that warrior that knows love and knows the suffering of where love isn't acknowledged.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so beautiful. So thank you for your presence and for asking and sharing and amplifying your love for all of us to receive. You so called in the warrior energy, Zoe.
Thank you.
Have a great session with Zoe when you have it.
I think I will.
I think you will too.
Get ready.
All right, let's move on to our next caller. I will only call you Zoom user because that's what the computer says that you are. So Zoom user, welcome.
With the glasses, you got the lights, and that's
yes,
you, yeah.
the man with the glasses, bookcase in the back. Hello. Welcome. Oh, we can hear you. No, you unmuted, but we can't hear you. So maybe their headphones plugged in?
Need your headphones? Sometimes you need to give Zoom access to listen to be able to use your microphone.
Yeah, we can't hear you, unfortunately. Why don't
He
you?
says
Yeah,
he's going to be right back.
yeah. Why don't you come back and I'll take another caller right now.
Okay.
All right, wonderful. Penny Carver. Penny, welcome.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Hi. I was really struck by when you were talking about the ego and, integrating that. And I just had this feeling that came up for me of wanting to be accepted, and that maybe it was really about not accepting myself. So I don't know if you can talk any more about, the work that you do with your ego and how to go about that.
How did it feel when you just shared that?
It felt good to say it.
And where are you feeling emotion in your body?
In my chest.
So close your eyes and place your hands already on your chest. I just want you to take a deep breath in of love into your chest. And hold that breath and then slowly breathe out through the mouth. I lovingly accept myself.
Lovingly accept myself.
For all of who I am.
For all of who I am.
Imperfect, just as I am.
Imperfect, just as I am.
And there is nothing left to fix or heal.
And there's nothing left to fix or heal.
I'm pure divine love.
I'm pure divine love.
Even my ego is love.
Even my ego is love.
Take a deep breath in. And just breathing out, letting out a sigh. Good. How does that feel in your chest now?
Good.
Good. So what will be really powerful for you is working with some really powerful affirming statements every day and recognizing, because you're quite like, am I right in sharing, like you can sometimes be a bit self-critical, like the mind kind of goes into a little bit of judgment. And so just really coming back to, what do you love about yourself? What lights you up? Getting to know that beautiful being that you are in the mirror, like almost like dating yourself, getting to know who you're becoming, what you are, what lights you up, what is inspiring to you. And every day moving a little bit more in awareness of what are these limitations through critical what's the word, like these beliefs that are coming through, because none of that is you, right? That's just a set of programs and beliefs that were downloaded to you from infancy or when you were born into this reality. The truth of who you are is pure divine consciousness. Everything else is a distraction, and it's the void and it's the noise, right? And so a big part of our journey is being in self-awareness to know, what am I sharing about myself that doesn't feel good? What am I sharing about myself that is made me believe that that's the truth, when that's the ego, it's the identity. So the ego isn't necessarily always a big boastful, oh, I'm an amazing being, look at me. The ego can also be an identity of what we perceive ourselves to be based on patterns and behaviors of our past and learned experiences from family members and things like that. And so as we get into adulthood, it doesn't matter what age we do this deep inner work, it helps to unlock and activate something within us that we never received as children, which is the type of love that we needed, which was divine love, not conditional love. Our parents loved us how they needed to love us, not how we needed, right? And so as we're coming into this awakening journey, it's really fine-tuning how we feel about ourselves by letting go of those learned experiences. And that's when we go through those, the completions of those soul cycles, right? I was sharing earlier, like we can be in these kind of ego trappings and stories. We're just learning to dissolve what that is for us and bringing us into self-awareness so that it can open up and access our heart portal, which opens up an identity that is more in alignment with our inner being. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So really sit and digest some of this information, because there's a lot of energy coming through for you, because I feel that we've just kind of unlocked a really major piece. And really sit with this, especially after the conversation, and perhaps, yeah, book in for a session and we can go a bit deeper with this. But there's energy that's kind of like in your field that is not serving you, and a big part of it is this: it's the mind, it's the critic, it's these negative beliefs that isn't you. Like, you're this big, bright, beautiful, amazing being that has so much life in you, like that life that you had when you were a teenager, but it's like you kind of got, told off a few too many times and you stop being that courageous self. That's still you, that's still in you. So I really want you, and I invite you, you don't have to listen to anything I'm sharing, but I invite you into a deeper inquiry to unlock that part of you again, because that part is what's going to access this change that you have been asking spirit to show you this last year. And this is the message that I'm sharing with you now with your team, with your higher self. Does this make sense? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So really just kind of breathe, take a moment and place one hand on your sacral, one hand on your heart. Close your eyes and just take a deep breath in of love now, really feeling that love in your body. And breathing out. Good. Beautiful. I'm feeling a lot of energy shifting on your right side there. There's like a coming home, a resonance. I'm feeling a remembering for you. Definitely listen to the replay of this and even write down the transmission, because there'll be more opening up and activating within you. And this is for all of us as well. Whenever I'm sharing with people individually, it's for all of us. It's for myself included. It's like, oh yeah, oh, it's okay. Such a beautiful being, Penny. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Penny.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah, and come back and listen to the replay into this part of it also. But
I will.
allow yourself to be also. There's a lot transmitting through. That's beautiful. Thank you for coming on. All right, I want to take another caller, and I know we're running a little over, but we're going to do it. But before I take another caller, and I saw that some of y'all jumped on late. If you've missed a special offer, the link is in the chat box. You have to check it out because the 2022 activation, or what do you call it? The 2022
Alignment Masterclass.
Alignment Masterclass, excuse me.
Merkaba galactivation.
Amazing. Yeah, it's what Zoe's bringing through is really powerful. You have that class, you have 3 months to the Haven Collective, you've got the 10 meditations that are all in the first package, and that's $147. And then for another $50, the first 30 people that sign up get a 30-minute one-on-one session with Zoe, and I highly recommend that. So definitely take advantage of it. Again, the link's in the chat box, or go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Zoe26. And we'll send a link out with the replay also. So know that the replays are there, and always replays can be accessible on beyondtheordinaryshow.com/replay. Super simple to get there. And Zoe, with that, we have to Zoom user. Let's see if we can get your microphone working now.
Is that coming through all right?
That works.
Okay, well, sorry about before. I've done this before, so firstly, thank you so much for such fascinating guests, because I've learned so much actually from just sitting in and just listening to you the past few weeks. So thank you very much for that. I was actually on last night, but I was so tired I fell asleep. I was just leaning against nothing about the content. It was just, I was trying to figure it all through. I just must have had a bit of a moment and just woke up this morning. But what I was going to ask Zoe was, in your experience, do you find there's a sort of a British condition of showing up for yourself, as you mentioned earlier on? Is it it's like inherited from obviously society and friends and family and what have you? It's a slight reticence to sort of look like we're participating in our own sort of self, and to, whereas, forgive me for this, but Americans are a bit more self-confident, a bit more outgoing. We've sort of got this slight British reserve still, or is that changing? I think.
I don't think I could speak for the British public. I mean, being British, that's a bit of a kind of abstract question. Like, I would invite you to use the space of any like personal questions that you have. But in answer to that, I have always been very outgoing and always been looking to deepen my personal development. And I've been on this path very actively and full time for like the last 12 years. Or more. I mean, as I said, timelines are a bit wobbly, but I definitely feel that England as a whole is starting to catch up with this potential of really investing in themselves more than perhaps they might have done like 10 years ago. So yeah, there is a shift that's happening for sure.
So no, I struggled with it slightly, sort of a bit of self-confidence issues. And I've just been through sort of 2 years of, I just found out it's Dark Night of the Soul type thing. And then I started dowsing and doing tarot cards as of the end of June. Excuse me. And I took a break from dowsing, and it's like my hands have been in miracle grow for the last couple of years, because it's just like banging around like it's going to take off. So maybe the rest was good. But I've just come across so many people who actually speak in the same kind of language that I've been wanting to speak for so long, but never really sort of found out how to access it. So again, thanks to John for bringing so many people together.
No,
well, that's kind of how it starts, is, you know, as we start to go through different consciousnesses of awareness, the right people start to show up. We start to be in the right place at the right time and receive the right conversation. And it's like, wow, how did I stumble across John's show suddenly? And then I'm listening into a conversation with a speaker, and then I'm feeling a shift in my body. And these aren't the types of conversations I've had before. And I kind of understand it and I don't understand it, but I know that I want more of it. I know that I want more of what I'm receiving from that experience. And so when you talk about the dark night of the soul, a part of our awareness to self is our awareness to the shadow. It's going deep into all of the parts of us that we most despise, that we least like and enjoy about ourselves. And that can even be the toxic behaviors and sabotaging tendencies and the limiting beliefs, and then mixed with perhaps the toxicity of unhealthy relationships and jobs and the way we hold our finances and the food that we eat. And maybe it just feels like we're never going to get out of there. But then one day we have this profound conversation with someone at the bus stop, a complete stranger, and they say 2 words to us, but it was all we needed to make that shift of inside of ourselves. And suddenly something opens up that we didn't have access to before. So as I'm reading into your field, that's kind of what's happening for you. And, you know, flow with what resonates. Are you in England right now? Is that where you're
Yes,
you're based?
I forgot to introduce myself as well. I'm Edward, by the way, not just in the user.
That's it. Sorry, what was your name?
Edward.
Edward. Nice to meet you, Edward. Yeah. And so what you are learning now is a version of you beyond the density of England. England is a beautiful place. I'm very proud to be British, but it has a lot of karmic imprints that it's been clearing for years, right? We think about the complete colonization of most of the world, right? There's a lot of stuff there, but equally there's a lot of joy and there's a lot of light and there's a lot of potential and amazing energy that can come through. And so you are exactly where you need to be on the land that is going to most hold you in deeper resonance for your most activating and awakened experience. And from that, there may be a bit of movement in your field, and there may be a little bit of travel to different places. I highly recommend you to visit Glastonbury if you haven't done so already, and also to Avebury Stones, because they have very, very powerful energy frequencies there. Drinking the spring water there as well will be really supportive for you. So if you have been, take yourself on a little trip soon. I think there'll be some good things for you.
It's wonderful.
I think it's due, yes. Can I just quickly ask, do you ever cover things like the Chiron return? Coming up, is it something you would recognize, or is it?
I'm here to share about the highest frequency of consciousness, and the experiences in between that is there's so many other like masters of that field, but that's not what I'm here to share. I'm here to share about that frequency. So, but it's a good question. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, one thing I want to invite you into, Edward, is I grew up Latino. I'm Hispanic, and very much in a cultural imprint of what being Latino has with its colonization, with the way men are supposed to be, with the way women are supposed to be, and all that. And all that carries environmental factors that influence our behavior. And the more that I've gone through my reckoning journey, which is what I'd prefer to call it now, not even really coming to terms with the truth of what's been in my environment and how I've had relationship with it, I've come to realize that not just my environment, but even more closely to me, how I carried so many of the imprints that my father carried and that my mother carried, and how I've been, at first there's the forgiveness or the letting go or the cutting cords. And there's a little or lots of judgment of what they held and how we're evolving and the consciousness of that. Then there's like, oh, they're just who they are and I'm who I am. And we're breaking the family lineage. We're breaking the environmental cords as well while we're doing that, the ancestral cords while we're doing that. And then you get to the point where you just have so much love for what they are, not what they were, what they are, what they've brought in all the time. And you realize that that environmental conditioning from the Latino culture that my parents took on, that I took on, were all part of this journey for me to realize in this time capsule of my growth, in this encapsulated time, as I dance with the 3D, the 5D, the 7D, the 20D, whatever you want to call it, in the different phases of it. It's like, where is it leading me back home to me? Where am I relaxing into myself? Oh, I have a limiting belief come up. It's like, wow, dad had that. Wow, my grandfather probably had that one. It's like, ooh, I have so much compassion for what they suffered through because I'm suffering through that. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. So the relaxing into, like noticing the pattern is beautiful. Putting it in a big scale makes it convenient. Because it's like, okay, it's because of that and it's because of this, but then it's always, why is this happening to me and for me? always land in why is this happening for me? So why am I in Britain right now? Why was I karmically as a soul born into this land? And there's a purpose. And that purpose always at the end of the day, at the very bottom, at the root of it is love. And when you keep remembering that, it's like, okay, I'm here for love. And I was born here for a particular reason. I'm in this environment for a particular reason. And it's showing me also where I forgot what that reason is. Then we're in a symbiotic relationship where we all grow together from it. And so I love that you asked the macro question and that Zoe took it into the micro, because it really is about you. But I wanted to give credit to the big picture question as well, because as we understand the big picture, we can bring our compassion to the big picture, not use it as a victimization tool, but really bring the energy, the love, what we're amplifying into what we're able to see now that we couldn't see before because we were blaming, shaming, guilting, denying, all those things. It's like, oh, okay. I'm here because I get to be a catalyst for demonstrating a new door that's become available that wasn't there before. Like Zoe said, Great Britain is shifting left. It's becoming so progressive and it's amplifying and light in ways that are really spectacular. And again, over the last 10 years, I've noticed that tremendously. And over the last 2 years, it's like becoming like a huge, like energetic hub. It's amazing what comes through. But I had to share that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. You actually picked up on something, because I've had to revisit and analyze lots of my closest relationships. And I had no idea before, but it turns out my mother's got very high narcissistic needs. I wouldn't want to call her a narcissist, but and I'm struggling I can't find the lady before we had a bit of a ding dong in the summer. I can't find that lady again anymore. So it's almost like that person or that side of her that I chose to see in her, that's gone. And it's I actually had to give up hope of finding that person again and deal with the new normal. So you picked up on the parents thing and the unrealistic demands that the hopes they have for you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Edward. Thank you for coming on, for posing the question. Zoe, I know we're going long, but can we end with a light language transmission?
We can, if I can. I'm fascinated what Eshma is drawing.
Let's Eshma, but you're gonna have to turn your screen because you're sideways, and I'm not gonna.
I'm just like, she's kind of like in this little fairy energy over here, and I'm just really fascinated what she's drawing. And then of course I'll bring through a transmission.
Yeah, let's get you to unmute, please. There you go.
What are you drawing?
I'm tuning in. I'm tuning into the energies and drawing what's kind of a landscape. Let's see if I can. I don't know if I can. Yeah, here we go.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, sweet.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
I have
gorgeous.
a little art project idea that I'm doing, and I thought I want to listen to high vibratory quality conversation while I'm doing it. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Well, while you're here, did you have a question?
Did I have a question?
Yeah.
I'm feeling really good in the mystery right now, but
Nice.
I mean, if you feel pulse to bring any information forth, I'm always open to the highest information, but I feel it's a really
I think I just would, just love to share that. I can hear myself speaking.
Ishama, will you mute her? For us?
Will I mute you?
Here, I'll mute you.
There we go. That's better. I just really love the energy that you're bringing in and the joy, and to keep following that, and especially with the art and the kind of, there's like downloads that I'm seeing you receiving as you're kind of going deeper into that joy space with the drawing, which is why I was kind of like, what is she doing over there in the corner? She looks really kind of like just really happy and content and like just creating some magic. So I would just keep doing that because it's beautiful, and I can really feel a lot of love and energy running through you. So thank you.
That's wonderful.
Beautiful.
I can feel freedom in her also, just in the mystery. There's freedom in the mystery. It's like, oh, imagine that. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Eshma? What? Eshma, is that right? You're muted now.
What about now?
Now, yeah, say your name for me correctly, please.
Ishima.
Ishima, I wanted to respect that. Thank you so much, Ishima.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Beautiful.
All right, let's get into our transmission. So before we end tonight's call, I'm going to end with the transmission. I'm going to just log off. So thank you all for being on the call tonight. What a beautiful energy and space that was held. It took all of us together to do that. And again, remember, I think April said there was 14 spots available for Zoe's private sessions. So if you want to sign up for that, half of them are gone, or over half of them are gone. And of course, the other special offer with the 2022 course, with the 3 months of the Haven and the meditations included in the package are available as well. Again, the link's in the chat box. You know where to find it now. And with that, I bid you all namaste. And Zoe, it's yours.
Thank you so much, John. This has been such a pleasure. And always, I'm not surprised that we went over. Whenever we talk, it's like there's no time.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So I just invite you all to really take a moment to pause, close your eyes, take some cleansing breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just really feel your body, feel your breath filling up your body with light. And on your exhalations, just letting everything go down into the earth, sending a cord of energy from your sacral through your root, all the way deep down into the crystalline core of Gaia. And just breathing in through your nose now and out through your nose, being open to receive. As we call through the 4 directions of the north, the east, the south, and the west, the ancestors, elders, our higher selves, the councils of light, to open up and activate a divine grid system of infinite source consciousness, universal love, and any beings, energies, thoughts, beliefs, patterns, programs, karmic imprints of past, present, and future to be cleared from this space now. And as we're just moving through the energy transmission, just really connecting to your breath, connecting to that moment. This is it, here, right now, ready, this moment for you to expand into all of who you came here to be, of all of who you are, the resonant field of unconditional love, and allowing for the explosion of experiences to expand beyond what you've known of anything of your past, of anything of your future, of into the moment. And if your mind starts to wander, bring it back to your breath. I'm breathing in, I am breathing out, connecting to your body, connecting to stillness, connecting to this voice, this transmission of light. Kiatatsia shuyamba kianda susu. Fuyata kiama tiama susama kiata suya sama. Uyatariama kapa suturia nakama susiama. Fiataramasu shiamatukuma iatamasa su. Iatamosu ianamasu kiatapa. Take a deep breath in and deep breath out. And as you continue to focus on this moment, focusing on your breath, what wants to expand for you now? What is wanting to be present in your field? What are you calling in? What are you ready to activate within your awareness of self? And feeling into everything that is available here, ready for you now. Activating your crystalline consciousness of divine expression, of love, of everything, of all of who you be. And feeling your heart starting to open now, opening up those deeper, deeper chambers of your heart beyond everything that you've experienced before. What is possible when you open your heart to yourself? What is possible when you open your heart to everything that is opening and ready and available in the here and now? Remembering your breath, remembering the stillness and divine of this moment. Furitike sama uyamati masushiyama itiyama kumasama tutiyama sutuma ifutiyama kumosuya tika masashiyama susu sifuyama. Take a deep breath in and then breathe out through your mouth, letting go. Good. Letting go. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out, letting go through your mouth. Good. Bring your hands together in front of your heart, bowing your head to your heart. Rubbing your hands together to create some heat. Placing your hands over your eyes and coming back into this moment, into this presence, into this beautiful expression of you. Giving yourself a great big hug. Giving yourself a great big smile. Thank you, everyone. Remembering all of who you are.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, everyone. You all have a great night.